I want to ask all of you here to raise your hand in answer to the next question. So if the election was held tomorrow, how many of you would vote for President Joe Biden? How many of you would vote for RFK Jr.? How many of you would vote for Donald Trump? We're pretty evenly divided here. Are any of you considering not voting?
No.
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 No. It's too important. It's too important. This is a very critical election this year. It really is.
Agreed.
Lydia, explain that. Why do you think it is critical?
It is critical because of the state of our nation. There's so much going on. Border security, infiltration by people that could cause extreme harm to our country, the economy, and the weakness of our current administration on the national stage.
What do you mean by infiltration?
Because of our open borders, I feel very strongly that there have been people coming in because nobody's being vetted, nobody's asking questions, and I think we are being infiltrated by people that could cause another 9/11, very honestly.
A large number of military-age men, 18 to 35. Margaret, I know your husband's a Marine. I'm a Marine. You know, he probably still has friends at the Pentagon. We see this. We see these numbers of illegals crossing the border, and we're not talking about Central and South America. We're seeing Haitians, we're seeing Chinese, we're seeing Central Africans. We're seeing Arab nation immigrants come across, or not immigrants, but illegal immigrants come across. So it looks like an invasion of some sort.
And why do you think? Because you're touching on a few things there. There is, I think, both parties recognize a broken immigration system. Yes. There is a concern about a terror threat, but you're talking about this as if it is a choice to allow for these risks. Why do you think that that is a choice versus a tough situation America finds itself in?
I'll jump in here. Sorry. Do you want to go ahead?
I want you to clarify. How do you mean a choice?
Well, I think you both were characterizing that as a reason for selecting your candidate for president.
Oh, okay. Okay, I understand. Okay. Go ahead, Linda.
So that's okay. Because day one that current President Biden was elected, he immediately, by the stroke of a pen, undid everything that President Trump had done in closing the border. We had security at the border. We were vetting the people that wanted to come in. And with the stroke of a pen, day one, he opened the border. He opened the doors without any vetting process. So it was his choice. He has to take responsibility for that, he and his administration.
You do know that there is vetting that border officials do when they encounter someone. They do. I've been to the federal facilities. When someone is detained, when they are captured, when they cross illegally, they are taken into federal custody, and those agents do vet people. The success of that vetting may be in question, the efficacy of it, but they are. If someone sneaks in undetected, then they're definitely not vetted. But there's a difference there.
Sure. But there's also a high number of people that are coming in, sneaking in. I mean, it's a long border, and it's a lot of farmland, ranch land, whatever. It's relatively easy for the people that would have a potential cause to do harm or the
Right.
will to do it, to take that route rather than stop at the front door and ask for permission.
Right.
And
And
we've
so,
taken measures to disable or to not prevent that in some aspects, which is frustrating.
okay. And is that a motivating issue for you in this election as well?
Not a single driver, but it's one of many.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And have you heard from either candidate like a specific vision on how to fix the issue you see with the border?
I've heard from Donald Trump that he wants to shoot people on when they cross. That's what I've heard.
I've not heard that at all.
I heard him say it. I saw him say it.
Well, I
I
do
also
believe,
have not heard him say it. Sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
well, I do
Yeah.
believe the border, it's a crisis. It truly is. But what is the solution? If we all can't get together and decide on a solution to the problem, how are we going to solve the problem? Because
I
when you
agree
have
with that.
5 or 10,000 people coming across the borders every day, and the Democrats and Republicans can't agree on a solution, then what do we do? What's the solution?
Sorry, go
I feel
ahead there,
that-
Jeremy. I see you raising your hand. You can
Oh,
jump in.
good.
Well, two things, just to dispel a myth. If you look at statistically, the number of crimes committed in the United States, the highest, much higher number by native white citizens. That is a fact. The second thing is that the number of illegal crossings has remained roughly the same. I have driven past the border, Arizona, California, New Mexico, many times. And you can't drive, a mile or a mile and a half without seeing a border patrol vehicle agent.
Mm-hmm.
There are people there. They're doing their job. So that's another myth that just, even personal observation confirms that it's not like open borders. And lastly, I'll throw in the fact that there was legislation in Congress, bipartisan, but it was blocked by Republicans. Why? A lot of people say it was an election stunt. So now they have another boogeyman to point fingers at for their own candidate. There was, and that happened like 15 years ago. Same thing in Congress when Obama was president. It was blocked by Republicans. So they say they want to fix the border. What does that mean? They have no idea.
And I don't think
That's
anybody
it.
would argue that this hasn't been an ongoing problem for decades, for years. But honestly, I don't think a rational person would say it hasn't gotten worse in the last several years by the messaging that's put out by policymakers here.
Key word there is messaging. If you want to make something into a problem, you can make it a problem. You can rally your troops behind it. And that's exactly what Republicans have been doing. I see it in my state all the time.
Jeremy, you're in Arizona. You are in a border state. So you
Yes.
sound, tell me what people you talk to in Arizona are thinking. What are your friends thinking when they rank sort of issues of most importance for them? How high does the border rank?
It's very low. I mean, there are other concerns that have been mentioned already that are much higher. It seems just not a big deal.
Overall, volume-wise, there is a hemisphere-wide migration crisis. So this is a problem in terms of just numbers, of course. But let's take a step back. How many of you plan to watch the presidential debate on Thursday? Raise your hand if you're going to watch. All of you. Jeremy, you're not watching. Wait, you got to unmute. Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
I'll watch the highlights.
You watch the highlights. Okay. Where will you watch those highlights?
It depends on the network. Evening news is always good. YouTube videos, I'm sure there'll be plenty of that. So, just whatever's available.
I wonder, all of you are watching. That shows you are interested in what may be discussed. Do any of you feel like you could be persuaded by these candidates to vote for the other one? Like if Donald Trump says something really compelling, would you switch from Joe Biden or vice versa?
I would fall over if he said anything worth listening to.
Well, Trump already said he
It's
wanted
a-
to be a
yes,
dictator. That was enough for me. This is
Exactly.
Well, I don't think you can take any of their words literally anymore. It's mostly political theater and comedy.
Yeah.
So there's some entertainment value there to be had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that,
think
that
at
is
this
indeed
point,
for sure.
So
No,
none of
Donald Trump means it when he says he wants to be a dictator. He means it.
I know he want revenge as well.
He wants everyone to do exactly what he says. He wants to put everyone in an office that will do whatever he says. He wants to get rid of tons of people that will stop him from being a dictator. He's said it a bunch of times.
And he also said he want to change the Constitution or
Yes.
do away with the Constitution.
Yes.
And again, it's a fallacy to even believe that he could do that. Well, no, the president can't do that. So
I'm trying to figure out, I'm seriously trying to figure out, when did Donald Trump say he was going to do away with the Constitution? And when did he say he was going to be a dictator?
Oh, he said it plenty of
I
times.
mean,
I watched the news.
seriously.
The dictator thing, he said at a rally, he said he was going to be a dictator on day one on a news show when he was being interviewed. I've seen the clips.
Was that in context, or are you taking that out of context?
It was
That's what
on
he
the
said.
evening news. The world
So
news.
which channel did
I
you
think
watch?
that was
I
taken
don't
out
watch
of
Fox
context.
News, I'll
dear.
tell you that. I watched
I'm thinking
the
that was
world
taken out of
news.
context. That's
Sorry.
like Joe Biden on stage when he thought he thought he could sit down, and everyone is thinking that he was using the bathroom in his pants.
I think this is
You
one of the problems.
I may not like Joe Biden, but he was actually thinking that he could sit down when the rest of the world thought he was doing something in his pants.
So Philip,
Okay, I
you
gave him a benefit of the doubt.
are in North Carolina. You lean
Correct.
Republican. It sounds
No,
like
I'm actually an independent and a
Right.
moderate.
okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like you consume a lot of social media. Do you follow Donald Trump? Because the first time he said he would be a dictator, he said it would just be for a bit of time. It was on social media. And when he mentioned suspending the Constitution, it was on social media as well. He's joked about it since, but he has made the comment.
Okay, that I have missed that. And I'm a firm believer that Donald Trump's social media account should be canceled. If anything, that's the one thing that needs to be taken away from that man. That's probably why I
Why do
really
you-
didn't want to vote for him the second time.
I've said it, if he would take a sledgehammer to his phone,
Exactly.
he would probably win something by a landslide to show that he's going to walk away from that platform. I mean, everybody can admit he's a blowhard. He's got an ego. He's not necessarily somebody that any of us maybe want to hang out or have dinner with.
I'm a kid from the 80s, okay, and from the South. So I remember watching him show up in professional wrestling and seeing the megalomaniac, the Dawn, okay. So seeing him as a politician, especially the first go round, was kind of like, really, Donald Trump? And
Yeah, no, Philip, just because you raised that question of context, I always appreciate that. The quote about terminating the Constitution was on social media, and Donald Trump said, "Do you throw the presidential election results out for 2020 and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution." It was a statement on Truth Social, and some Republicans didn't like that he said that.
No, I'm a firm, like I said, I'm a Marine. I fought the Constitution, and I'm a firm believer in the Constitution. I may disagree with several people on this panel, but We all
So
have
I'll-
that First Amendment right to say what we feel as long as we're not inciting violence.
Yes.
That's the key
And-
word, not inciting violence, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And-
So
What do you think
Philip,
about-
Philip, you also take a vow to the Constitution when you are president of the United States.
Exactly, you do.
Mhm.
And what do you think about Vladimir Putin? Because Trump seems to love him.
I don't agree with that, but
Mhm.
I mean, Vladimir Putin is definitely not
Good
scared
guy.
of Joe Biden,
He's not
and
scared of
neither
Trump
is
either.
Chairman, the chairman of China.
You guys are a lively crowd this Friday night. I like I like it.
So
it's-
if I
Go
can
ahead.
jump in here, look, you
Yeah.
know, your statement about Trump loving Putin, it's a show. He is from New York. He is a showman. He's been on TV. He knows how to tweak things, if you want to call it that. You know, but he still, I think, I feel he does love our country, and he wants to do what's
agree.
best for it. He may be a blowhard, he may say things, but in the end, he knows how good this country has been to him in making him a success. So the things that he says, we basically listen with one ear, goes in one ear, goes out the other, and you try to go through the weeds to find out what really is going on.
Lydia, that's so
also-
interesting. That's so interesting you say that you put aside what he says.
Mhm.
Do you have kids?
Yes. I have two sons who are in the Air Force. And by the way, thank you so much for your service, sir. That's much appreciated in all that you've done to protect our great country. And that's the bottom line. We want
Yeah.
our country to be great again. You know,
Yeah.
and right now it's not.
And Lydia,
We're a laughing stock on the world stage. I'm sorry.
no, Lydia, thank you for your son's service. But it's sort of the opposite of how you parent, right? Like you probably don't tell
Yes.
your boys say whatever. You probably held them to account when they said something that they shouldn't have said. Why do you think you view this man who is going to be potentially commanding your sons into the
Mhm.
battlefield to a different standard?
No, I don't hold him to a different standard. I'm not saying I appreciate or even like the type of stuff that sometimes comes out of his mouth, you know, but that's, I think, how he was raised. And then, you know, with his, you know, his show, The Apprentice, you know, again, he had to be a showman. So that doesn't make it right. No, I don't
Yeah.
agree with that at all. However, we've had 4 years with him. A lot of us liked, you know, what he did for our country, but that doesn't mean we liked the things he said or how he sometimes acted. So it's
What
it's
did
a
he do for our
balancing act.
country?
Well, I do want to.
What did he do for us?
Because well, he kept us out of wars and was getting us out of Afghanistan the correct way. Where the current administration got us out and killed and had several Marines killed because they did it the wrong way.
Did we start the war in Ukraine? Did we start the war in Israel? No, we did not.
Actually, we're escalating the war in Ukraine. The Hamas started the war in Israel.
We did not start these wars. You
And
cannot put on
Hamas,
Biden.
The U.S. is not part of those wars, is what I think you are saying, Marlene, right? That the United States is not fighting in those wars, which is different than.
Right. We didn't start the
Technically-
wars.
technically,
We didn't
we're
invade.
we're not supposed to be boots on the ground in Ukraine, but we're giving Ukraine military aid.
Because
Okay,
they're our ally.
we should not.
We should let
be
Putin take
giving them
over.
food. We should be giving them humanitarian aid and let them fight their own war. They're not part of NATO. We should back our NATO allies and let Ukraine fight their own war.
Hey,
Trump
Philip,
thinks we should get rid of NATO.
Hey, Philip, did you know that the first person to surge lethal aid to Ukraine was 2017? It was the Trump administration.
I understand that. I don't
Yeah,
agree with it, but
so he did it back then.
I
So
know.
if he
but-
says now, if Donald Trump says now that he will continue aid to Ukraine, as some of his advisors are saying, is that going to make you withdraw your support for him?
No, and why? Because inflation. Huge part is inflation.
The huge part, sorry, back it up. The
A
huge part of why you were
the
voting
reason
for.
why I'm for voting for Trump is economics and inflation.
Okay. So raise your hand if any of you feel that you are better off today than you were 4 years ago.
Probably the same.
Same.
You feel the same. I see you there with your hand up. Jeremy, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, one of the things that people often forget is that American consumer spending has been rising, even in relation to inflation. Wages have been soaring high along with it. Some say that might have caused part of the inflation problem. If you get 20 economists in the same room, you'll get 30 different answers. So the two are definitely related. I raised my hand about being better off 4 years ago because my employer has given significant raises across the board to everyone. And I guess I don't buy the kinds of things with the inflationary prices. I mean, if I pay an extra 20 cents a pound for asparagus, I think I'll live. So it just depends on individual circumstances.
Yeah, because today, this economy, anybody that wants a job can get one. And that's a fact. Anybody that wants to work can get a job now.
I saw a Circle K convenience store a couple of years ago, just a convenience store, $500 signing bonus. So they would just give you the money if you're hired, no experience needed. So yeah, I agree with your opinion.
So I'm just going to give you an example. And this is Walmart. I don't know if you two shop at Walmart or Macy's or wherever. Just an example, a month ago, went in, bought paper plates. Okay. Stack of 50, $3.98. Okay. Here in North Carolina. This month, $5.98. Okay. Big price jump. Okay. Gas. All right. Normally, well, I would say a month ago, thank goodness I work from home, so I only have to fill up my car, once a month or once every 6 weeks. $3.14 a month ago, $3.44. Okay,
It's gone
30
down
cent
by
price
me.
jump.
Well, it's going down
Okay.
here.
And this
Gone
is
down by
not
me too. But I
okay.
agree with the Walmart thing because I shop at Walmart. And I think that is more of a corporation greed thing. Because I
Well,
go
I
there
also
every week
shop
to
at
do my grocery shopping, and the prices on certain things, I know exactly what the price is. And it'll go up 50 cents one week, then a couple weeks later, it'll go up 50 cents again. And I really think that's a corporation greed thing. I don't think it's all about inflation.
well,
And
we
a lot,
live
a lot of
we
those
do live-
retailers, and a lot of those retailers 2 weeks later will put those paper plates on sale, $3.98, and they'll say, "Oh, you're saving money."
Yep, price drop.
Yep.
So the economy sounds like, whether it's jobs for some of you or inflation for others, that is top of mind. I wonder, raise your hand if any of you think about, for example, the state of our democracy. Does that concern you? And is that a reason that you would, wow, you are jumping right at it, Marlene. That I didn't even finish the sentence. What's going on?
Donald Trump does not want what's good for America. He does not want democracy. He wants to have everything his way. He wants to place people in power that will do whatever he says this time, because the last time he didn't do that. He had people that were pushing against him for the things he wanted to do. But this time He's going, and he said he's going to put people in there that are going to listen to him and do what he says. That means in the Justice Department, if he wants so and so to be in the Justice Department because they're going to do whatever he says, then he's going to go after all of his political opponents, even if they haven't done anything wrong. He's going to have complete control, and that's what he wants.
Well, I think he wants the Justice Department gone too.
Lydia, you're raising your hand.
Yes. So the same can be said about President Biden. He has forced the EVs on us. Nobody wants to buy EVs. Our electrical grid is not built to support it. Yet he forced all the car manufacturers to convert to EVs, and now they did it because they had no choice. They were going to be penalized if they didn't, and now they're finally pushing back and saying no. There's no sales for these vehicles. Tesla somehow is making it. I don't know how, but they are. And then he's struck all the drilling that we could be doing to be an independent nation for fuel. So our gas prices would not have to be rising the way they are. And he struck all that down. So, tit for tat.
Lydia, do you think somebody's making you buy a car?
Yeah, I'm not buying an EV.
By 2030.
He made it.
I think the
That
comment is
America has made it
just-
mandatory.
No, Americans
I'm
will
not
not be.
saying-
Americans won't be required to drive electric vehicles. The car manufacturers, there was a goal set for the transition to happen, but Americans won't be required, and car manufacturers will still make
Okay.
combustion engines too.
But the
However, they might not
The
be.
problem is
okay.
the infrastructure is not there.
Right.
Exactly.
And won't be because the American infrastructure plan took how many billions of dollars?
Mm-hmm.
760 some, I forget the exact amount. And they've added 8 stations across the country that are
Right.
Charging stations. Right.
charging stations, excuse me.
Mhm.
Tesla has done this on their own.
Right.
Spent $1 billion and added several hundred. Okay.
I have a Starbucks just down the street from me that Tesla
Exactly.
just went in and put 6
So do
charging
I, and they
stations
have
in
like
front.
20.
Yeah. So, but I'm not saying that they're going to make us buy an EV, but they're going to make
Mhm.
it difficult for us to get the type of vehicle we want because of his mandates. So
choices are
what is
being
your-
removed from the American
the
public.
choices? Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
like-
That's exactly what the case is.
If they want us to buy EVs, let Elon Musk and Ford and Chevy
Mm-hmm.
come out with a proposal on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, let everybody
let
do
them-
what
let them
they
go
want
forward
to
with
do.
this.
Make their own choices, not be shoved down their
Exactly.
throats.
But
Okay.
I do want to make one correction. We're not a democracy. Now I know that
We are not a democracy right now.
we are not a democracy. We have never been a democracy. We are a democratic republic. It is in our documents, a democratic republic. We practice democracy one day a year, and that's when we all go vote. That's our democracy. One man or woman, one vote. Okay. And then what we do is we elect our representatives. That makes us a republic. And then what they do is they go to Washington, or they go to Raleigh for me, or they go to whatever your state capital is, and that's where they make the laws. We elect them to make the laws. That makes us a republic. Therefore, and when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, what do? To the republic for which it stands. Therefore, the United States of America is not a democracy. Democracy is mob rule. It didn't work in Athens. It didn't work for the Greeks. It doesn't work here.
Okay.
And dictatorship doesn't either.
I'm sorry.
And neither does a dictatorship.
Exactly, and neither does a dictatorship. It didn't work in
No.
Germany. It didn't work in
Mhm.
Italy. And it's
That's
not gonna
right.
work here.
Show of hands. Does everyone here then, regardless of what word you use, does everyone here trust their state government to fairly and safely administer the upcoming presidential election?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, that appears a fairly partisan divide. None of those who are supporting Trump trust that the 2024 election will be safely administered by your state government?
Lydia
Why?
did.
I'm in Georgia. I feel, I feel fairly confident.
Oh, you do. So, Lydia, you believe the state of Georgia will administer your election fairly?
Well, there's been a lot of changes since the last election, so I
You
feel
don't think they
this-
did in 2020?
I 50-50. We'll leave it
And
at
I
that.
too am from Georgia, and I agree. The election is going to be correct in Georgia.
Mhm. So, but the changes that have been made, I think, will keep it more secure. Let's put it that way. So
What does that mean to
I'll
you?
leave it.
Right.
What does it mean to me? I don't think things were watched as carefully as they should have been back then. So possibly there were miscounts. I don't know. I think there should have been some forensic recounting done that weren't.
What is?
But what
Mhm. Go ahead,
however
sorry.
it turned out, no, I said however it turned out. So not just the ballot counting, but deep dive counting. So we'll just leave it at that. I'm fairly confident that it'll be done correctly this time.
Okay.
I just think that the concerning thing is that in most areas, the population is split almost so evenly that it really doesn't take a lot to tip the balance one way or the other. And I guess just here in the state of Wisconsin, I don't have 100% confidence that in Dane County, in Madison, or in Milwaukee, where it matters, where at 10 p.m. before you go to bed on election night, it looks like one thing, and then magically ballots are found overnight. It just doesn't give you that sense of confidence. And how is it that in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, we were much less technologically sound as we are now, and we could figure out who wins an election in a reasonable manner, and people didn't have these same conversations about distrust. And now, where it should be able to be quick, accurate, locked down, some manner of having the public have some sense, you get instant communication, and yet I think we feel worse now than we have in decades at election evening or the night after.
But
Just,
why is it that since Donald Trump lost an election is the only time that I've ever heard anybody say that the elections are rigged, that they're not right, that they're not.
No, go back to Bush and
ballots.
Gore. You can't say it's
Or
been-
nobody ever said
I mean,
it.
it was
Hillary Clinton
Yes, they
said
did.
it since
Oh, absolutely, they
2016.
did.
yeah.
So
back in-
you
I
can't
think it was
say Donald Trump's
2000.
been saying it. She's been saying it since 2016 that the election was stolen and he was an
Yeah.
illegitimate president.
Mhm. Yeah,
Hillary-
Hillary cried the blues. So come on.
Hillary
so-
Clinton.
and-
Hillary Clinton did talk about foreign influence operations, but she accepted the outcome of the 2020 election. She recognized that Donald Trump won it. Excuse
but
me.
she actually
Hillary
won the
Clinton,
popular
I just
vote.
said the wrong year. Hillary Clinton recognized the outcome of the 2016 election and that she lost it. She said that. She publicly acknowledged it. Have you ever heard Donald Trump acknowledge that he lost the 2020 election?
No.
Exactly, and he
Yeah.
never will.
just a point of fact that popped into my head. I remember reading a while ago, investigating voter fraud in the 2020 election. I think it was, I might have heard it or read it in the Times or something. But anyway, I think AP did an investigation and they found fewer than 500 possible incidents of voter fraud. And I seem to remember it was almost split 50-50, either for Biden or the former president. So with the millions of votes, even if 500 were to shift the balance, okay, maybe Florida in year 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not there. It's another manufactured issue by the Republicans.
Now, I thought there was and I'm just saying, recently, a couple of Democrats have went to jail like in the past couple of weeks, either in Texas or New Mexico or even Arizona, that for ballot harvesting.
I haven't heard that.
I missed that one myself.
No.
I'm just
Philip, where do you get your news and information about the candidates from? Where do you turn?
I usually check BBC, Al Jazeera, you guys, Blaze, CNN, MSNBC. I'm all over the place. I don't get it from one spot because
Same
I
here.
mean, why select one when you can get different? I mean, your news agency may cover it one way, while another agency may cover it a different way.
Right. And how do you find those news stories? Do you go to each website, or are you looking at a social media
feed? I usually go
feed?
to different websites, or I use a different program to pull them all together.
And a news aggregator that pulls
Yes.
information for you.
Yes.
Real Clear Politics?
That's one. Yes.
Yeah, I guess that for a reason. So that's interesting. So will all of you stand by the 2024 election results?
Yes.
Show of hands. And do all of you expect your preferred candidate to accept the 2024 election results? Tony, you were like, I don't know. Yeah, sure.
I can't speak for what someone's going to do. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, he pretty much already said he's not going to accept it if he loses, so.
It's gonna be a bloodbath.
Where did you hear that? He has not said that. Where?
Margaret,
I'm sorry?
Where did you hear that? Where did you hear him say
I'm sure
that?
she's heard it too.
I'm sorry, you're talking over each other. Have I heard Donald Trump say what exactly?
That he won't accept
he
the
won't-
results if he loses.
He has said things like, I will accept the results, I will win. You know, he has made jokes about it. He has already, as you have been talking about, been casting doubts about an election that hasn't even been held yet.
Right.
So there is certainly doubt being sowed by the Republican candidate. That is true. But I want to go back to what Will Dreddy, I think I heard you try to get a word in there. I heard you say the word bloodbath.
Yeah,
What were
but
you talking?
That's what I heard him say, that if he didn't win, it's gonna be a bloodbath.
Yeah, he said that.
Where did you hear him say that?
Well, it was on the news. I can't remember what channel it was.
One of his rallies, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's right, because he was
Yeah.
standing up on the podium.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Donald Trump at his rallies has used that term.
That was not what it was about.
No, it wasn't. Again, it's being taken out of context.
Well, he's done it already, January 6th.
Exactly.
Yeah, true.
Do any of you approve of what happened January 6th when Trump supporters stormed the Capitol?
No,
No,
None of you do.
absolutely not.
but I don't think he was the cause of it either. I think it's, again,
No, he was
everything was
not.
taken out of context.
Always out of
Did not
context.
say
Incitement.
that to go do that.
Incitement to violence.
I'm sorry, that was you out in Arizona, Jeremy? Incitement to violence?
Yep. I mean, remember the guy with the horns storming the Capitol?
Mhm.
It's part of a weird cultic tradition that he was doing that. He was from Arizona. And everyone said they were doing it for their president, who wrongfully lost. So
Stop the steal.
Right, and
You're
you had a
talking
group of
about the
people
QAnon
who,
shaman,
you had a group of
right?
people who acted
Who's
out.
shown, who's been shown to be being led around by film, okay, being led around by the police through the Capitol, okay, in and out of the the buildings, through the rooms, not being escorted by the police,
I missed
Well-
that.
not causing any problems inside.
Sorry, Philip,
Okay.
what does that mean to you? Because you just said you don't approve of what happened on January 6th.
I don't approve of the people that busted through the barricades. Okay, I don't approve of people breaking glass, climbing the walls. Okay, I don't agree with that. All right, that's inciting, that's violent.
Violence.
What about
It
trying
it
to
is-
what about
it
trying to
is
stop the
people's-
certification of the election results?
I don't agree with that at all. That's what our representatives, senators are supposed to be doing on that day. Okay. It constitutional. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. And Donald Trump told them to go over there. Yes, Jeremy, they said he did tell them to go there and peacefully protest. Not what the January 6th committee cut off.
There were
He
many
told them to go there.
There were
and
many
protest.
calls to come to Washington, D.C. to protest and
Yes.
to rally and to go to the Capitol. I think what you're
What
referring
about
to there
Nancy
is one
Pelosi not
specific clip.
calling the National Guard when she was asked to by the president, and now there's proof that she even knew that she was in the wrong for not doing it.
Ooh,
Tony, you've been trying to get a word in.
Right, without hearsay of what someone did or what someone thinks they saw, all I can say is that it's unfortunate that a group of people who felt frustrated, felt unheard, whatever it was, wanted to show that something, the message that we need a change, we need something to happen, this group isn't being listened to, whatever, but you get a large group of impassioned people together, and unfortunately, a mob activity occurred. Now, unfortunately, in the last several years, this has happened commonplace across the country for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
buildings have been burned, public things, property's been destroyed. And yet some of the people that were involved in January 6th have been like hunted down via whether it was social media, the government was very aggressive in trying to ascertain who was there that we could prosecute. But then just this week, in Manhattan, New York, they said, well, we're not going to prosecute any of these anti-Israel protesters that were at Columbia because we didn't really know what they did, and it didn't really cause a problem. So we just drop it all and then go home and not worry about a ticket or any kind of a problem there. And it's just so pick and choose what people.
You know that people died.
that was the Capitol, though. Come on,
At the Capitol, police officers died.
died.
No, they didn't.
That.
Yes,
Not
they did.
one Capitol police officer died in relation to
Several were
activities of
hospitalized, one had
January
brain
6th.
trauma, and a couple killed themselves from what they were through.
Okay,
And I do believe
police
somebody had a heart
suicide,
attack and died as
police suicide is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay, and that would bring you to military suicide happening every 24 minutes.
Unfortunately,
let-
very
let's-
true.
What
Yeah.
we do to protect citizens all the time. I've had several friends that have committed suicide due to anyway, I'll skip
Yeah.
that. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, well, I
Donald
think,
Trump wants to pardon these people
right.
if he gets elected.
Some of these people should be pardoned because a grandmother for being there, a reporter who was there And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Margaret, I'm just going to use you as an example. If Margaret had walked in with several other reporters, okay, and she's using her phone to take recordings, and then, you know, she's arrested for being on the Capitol grounds, but the other 19 are not. Okay, what, you know, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but there was a gentleman for the Blaze News that was arrested.
Well, I want to move on, but just to be clear, people weren't arrested for being physically at the Capitol. It was for what they were doing while they were there.
He was reporting.
Reporters did report from the Capitol, and we benefited greatly from their coverage, including some of my colleagues at CBS. But I want to ask you back to the broader point of violence that was raised here. How many of you are concerned about violence in this country around the time of the election? Raise your hand. Who is it that you are concerned about, Wildretta?
Well, I'm concerned that if Donald Trump loses again, he's not going to accept it, and he's going to rally his troops once again. Because I thought it was just atrocious that he wouldn't even go and turn the presidency over to Biden when he lost. I mean, in history, I don't think it was one president that lost the election, or that it was time to turn over power, didn't go and do the right thing. And he's just so un-American to me.
You said
me.
around the election date, Margaret. I'm concerned there's been a lot of talk about different groups. You know, people say watch over the elections. Well, does that mean amateurs with handguns, you know, intimidating voters? I mean, as they walk into a polling place, I wouldn't be in person voting for that. I'd be afraid of my life. And maybe they say, "Oh, you're carrying a gun, go right in." I mean, I believe that is a legitimate concern.
I'm worried about that too, because they keep telling people, go stand outside the polling places and make sure they're not doing anything wrong. And these are people with guns. They did it last time. I don't know how you can allow that. I certainly hope that the police will be out in full force if that occurs.
If I may ask, what do you mean by they did that last time?
When they
Comes at
were
a
doing the
polling place.
recount in Arizona, there were people out there with guns from whatever group. I don't even remember the group.
But you didn't
Make
see that,
sure
Marlene, in
they were counting
Wisconsin.
right.
Was it on TV? Did you see it on the news? Where
Yeah,
did
it was
you
on the
hear this?
news. It was on the news.
I
I just want to point out, did you notice that none of the people that were voting for Trump said anything about violence? Because
Yes.
most of us that are Trump supporters that are moderate or lean toward Republican,
moderates, yeah.
we don't
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to that. It's usually the Democrats that fall into that category. They're the ones that support people like Antifa, the militant part of BLM. And I agree with BLM, the movement. I don't support the actual organization itself, but I support the movement. Okay.
Well, Tony, you did
just terrorist organizations.
Tony, you did raise earlier your concern about violence in this country, mob violence. You're just not worried about political violence or mob violence around the election?
I just think that anytime you get a large group of people together, anything can happen. Whether it's at a concert, a sporting event. Look at Kansas City Chiefs win a Super Bowl. Somebody in a crowd gets hurt. I mean, it happens. I don't see people lining up at polling places to incite violence. And it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen around here. I don't know anyone on the left to be concerned because they all mail their ballots in early anyways. It's everybody on the other side of the aisle.
We're all cheaters.
On election day.
We're all cheating.
Yeah, see, you can say something like that and it's a joke, and Donald Trump can say it and you vilify him for it.
So, sorry, Marlene, you were being sarcastic, I think, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, Tony.
And I know that she was too.
So, but Tony, you raised something which is important. Do all of you, when I asked about whether you trust your state to administer your election fairly, when it comes to mail-in ballots, do all of you trust that you can vote safely and securely through the mail? Raise your hand. Only 2 of you trust that you can use a mail-in ballot and that it'll be counted? Tony, I'm confused.
I don't know what happens. The ballot gets lost, the mail gets lost. I mean, it's an imperfect way to do it. And
But Donald Trump has now said he wants people to use mail-in ballots.
And that's fine if he wants people to do it. I don't believe we have the infrastructure in place that people will follow the rule as it's printed on your mail-in ballot to ensure the correctness of it being one person's vote.
It's the same ballot that you see in the polling place, exact same. Here in Arizona, you have to sign your name, so they match it up with the signature, just like they do at the polling place. It's the same process. The delivery mechanism is the same. I can't think of the last time where I have truly encountered a piece of lost mail. The United States Postal Service is a quasi-governmental organization, and they are charged with the responsibility of delivering things. And say a ballot gets lost. Well, what about the other, 50 million? I mean, sure, it can happen, but it's not going to affect the world. Please.
So those votes don't matter.
No, every vote matters. If you're that concerned about the post office, go to the polling place. I mean,
I believe
we have a
that
problem with the
should
postal. For one of our postal services, one of our big post offices, we're having a problem with it. So they were talking about some ballots that didn't get in, they were thinking weren't gonna make it on time. So that's my only concern. But I'm from Georgia, so I don't really have a problem going in to vote.
Mm-hmm. Will Dretta, I want to come back to something earlier. You raised your concern about the term bloodbath and Trump saying that. One of my producers just emailed me that when the context to that was when Trump used it, he was talking about the auto industry and electric vehicles. There would be a bloodbath for the industry. And then that was clearly a term that a lot of people jumped on. But you believe he meant something else entirely. That's clear. I want to ask you about another issue, though. How many of you here are concerned about women's health, reproductive health, or access to abortion after this upcoming election? Are any of you going to vote on this as a key issue for you?
Nope.
No, not me.
Nope.
But go ahead, Marlene. You are.
All right. Well, women's rights, everybody should be able to decide what they want to do with their body, men and women. And no woman should be told she has to have a child she doesn't want or can't afford. Bottom line.
And in terms of your state of Wisconsin, Marlene, do you think that access would change if Donald Trump were president? He couldn't change federal law without Congress voting to do that. So what exactly are you concerned about?
Well, unfortunately, in my state, they already have a law against it because we're Republican run.
You have restrictions on abortion access.
Yes.
So for you, I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. For you in November, one of the reasons you're voting for Joe Biden is because you think if Biden is reelected, that it would change somehow what your state law is?
I think that the more Republicans that you have, the more likely we are to get a federal mandate all across the whole country that abortion will be illegal. That's my thought process.
Okay, because currently with Joe Biden as president, he can't get Congress to vote to protect abortion. Those votes aren't there
Right.
any more so than a ban at this point. But tell me why this is so motivating for you in Arizona, Jeremy. I know your state is one of the few where the actual issue could be on the ballot as it affects your state.
Yeah, the state Republican state legislature instituted a law from 1864, a Civil War era law that would outlaw all abortion. And the Attorney General has suspended that. And
Right.
now the legislature is saying, oh, there's a backlash against this, right? And that's how the ballot measure got approved. I point out that 1864, and I laughed when I made this connection in my head. Well, is that the America we want to make great again?
If I could just say, I would agree with Jeremy that some of these outdated laws need to come off the books. Okay, like 1864 law needs to be kind of updated.
We weren't
Okay.
even a state back then.
It's a
And
fine line.
Yeah.
you gotta
I
walk
mean,
because,
I can
right
agree
as
with him on that, whether it's, you know, abortion or not. We could disagree or agree on that or not. But that kind of law or that old of a law needs to definitely need to be updated and
Be
make
careful
more
with that
modern.
language, Philip. The
Yeah.
Declaration of Independence and Constitution are pretty old, and they're pretty good documents. So just
Mhm.
because it's old doesn't mean it's not good.
Well, I mean,
Just saying,
it
you
needs
gotta
to
pick your
be
words
up-
carefully.
it
There's a
needs-
lot of old laws on the books that maybe could get revisited given current, state of
Well,
mind of people.
our Constitution is a living document. That law is not a living law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a little bit of difference between the law and our Constitution. Laws can be updated. Our Constitution still lives because it can be updated. That's why we have, ratifications.
Anything can be subject to change. You just need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, we got rid of alcohol and then we brought it back. We didn't like something, we got rid of it, we could bring it back. That's go ahead, I'm sorry.
But you do think that it is states who should decide access to reproductive health and abortion?
Oh, yeah, it should stay in the
I
states.
agree with that.
Absolutely. It should stay in the states.
There's
The,
nothing federal about
the
that.
federal government should not mess with this. It's not their place. Let the states decide. And if you're in a state that you don't agree with the law, you either live with it or you move.
Or you elect
You know?
different people that represent you.
Exactly.
Believe me, I
Very
try, but
valid
I'm
point.
surrounded by Republicans.
Rally your friends,
Yeah.
I try.
try harder.
Of course, not all people can afford to up and move when they don't
That's what I'm
like the
saying.
local
It's,
government.
Yeah, you
Right.
need to
involved.
rally your group. Yeah. You need to rally your group.
How many of you think that there is a benefit to having presidents who are older? Donald Trump, 78, Joe Biden, 81. Does anyone think that older age is an asset?
I don't think anybody wants a 20-year-old president, or 35 even, as the Constitution would allow. There's some benefit to wisdom, experience, but I don't know that it's something we would want to set an age limit. But I think you got to question fitness, ability, cognitive ability.
I think that's where we're getting to, is the cognitive ability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I know they've raised some issues with, they've said recently Donald Trump is showing cognitive decline. Joe Biden is definitely showing cognitive decline. I think the White House has even tried to say that those are all fakes, but
Who
I've
knows?
not
It's-
seen that those are actually fakes.
I haven't heard anything about fakes. I don't understand what you mean.
Well, the White House press secretary tried to pawn them off as fake.
Yes. Mhm.
Saying that
Recently,
they
there
were-
was concern about selectively edited videos
Yeah.
or clips. Right. I remember that from the Trump administration days too, with,
Yeah.
you know, the way he fumbled
Mhm.
off of a stage and, you know, then that
Joe-
White House saying, oh, that was edited.
If it was Joe Biden normally the way Joe Biden has
Mhm.
been for the past 20 years, Joe Biden has always been known for his his gaffes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Asking a man in a wheelchair to please stand up. Okay. I didn't know Joe Biden was Jesus Christ and can make people walk, but you know, that's a gaffe. All right. It happens, but that's just been him for the past, what,
Mm-hmm.
53
Ye-
years, 51 years. That's just the way that
Mhm.
he is. Okay, but it's gotten worse over the past 4 years. It may be just the stress of being president.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But that Donald Trump right now is 78 years old.
right.
Mhm. But you don't see that him,
You
standing
don't
on
see,
stage.
you don't see that
Yeah.
in him though.
You don't see that
mean-
he goes to a rally for 4 hours and is talking and is making sense. I know some of our other panelists won't agree, but he's there, he's alive, he's rallying the troops.
He
Joe
can interact.
Biden,
Yeah.
go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm just saying he can interact like a person. He can have a conversation where
exactly.
he's not scripted. He's not afraid to interact. He's not
You don't
afraid
see
to.
him going through his little cards.
For, seconds on end.
Right.
Like,
Right.
somebody needs to come behind him and wind him back up.
Do you think he
Right.
always
Or-
makes sense when you listen to him at rallies? Like, did you all hear him talking about sharks and electric boats last
Yeah.
week?
He does, he does like, I
It's
wonder
a
about
form
that.
of theater, really. I mean, again, if you're looking for.
So when
Hannibal Lecter,
when Donald Trump says something that you're laughing at,
that's okay.
that's okay. But
Yeah.
when
Well, it is-
Joe
it-
Biden isn't
If
quite
you're
making
looking at
sense,
the context of it, he is making a joke.
what was the
most of
context for
time.
the sharks and the boat?
Well, I haven't seen the. I haven't seen
Regardless,
the
when he's
clip.
on a stage at a rally or a fundraiser or whatever, you're not setting policy. You're not sitting down with serious people to say, this is my day-to-day job in running the government. Again, it's a form of theater.
You
And-
think it's
Basically
acting?
saying, I want this
and to be
job.
honest, maybe if Joe Biden would do that to show that he has something going on there that's a little less scripted,
Off
or
the cuff.
to show
Yeah.
that whether you like the personality or not.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we've got decades of history of Joe Biden because he's been in politics for so long. So you
Right.
can see the man from a time ago to today, and this is not a criticism. I mean, age is what it is. You can't stop it. It can't
Right.
be helped.
Just because
Well,
you're
well-
older doesn't mean that you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
My
because
parents
we're
are
all
Joe
getting
Biden's age
older.
and their minds are fine.
Some people,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
there
And
are.
we're just saying, we're talking about the
Yeah.
previous Joe Biden was gaffes, okay, just
Yeah.
misspeaking, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Joe Biden we've got in the past 2 years, especially 2 years, has been a definite decline.
I've
Yeah.
seen
Well-
a little
The
decline,
cognitive
but not like what
function.
you guys are saying. You're
Yeah,
acting
well-
like he's fumbling around on stage.
Okay,
and
but half
that's where
the
he
So
is.
you don't see
He
the
is.
decline in Donald Trump, huh?
half of the people in this group say that anything Donald Trump says, it's garbage. We don't want to listen to him, whatever. But we don't even get the opportunity to hear what Joe Biden says because he won't take questions. He walks away. He has his one or two picked out, scripted. Here's the name of the reporter on my notes, and
Mm-hmm.
see ya.
Mhm.
And you don't even get to interact. There's no transparency. There's no sense of, hey, here's what I think about this or why we're doing this. So what's worse? Something that you
Mhm.
say isn't even worth listening to, or not even being able to hear the message.
Well, how
Well,
about Joe's gonna debate with Donald, but Donald would not debate with anybody beforehand. So, but Joe is willing to debate with him.
Did he
Well-
have to?
Well, we will all see on Thursday night.
Are
That we
Listen,
will, absolutely, yeah.
Are they
when
going
But
to
you-
drug test? Are they going to drug test him? Both the candidates afterwards?
I have
But
no
Donald
idea.
Trump did ask, are they gonna drug test the president after the debate or before?
Did you think he was joking?
I don't think he was joking afterwards
No.
because,
Because,
Mm-hmm.
because of the way he was acting before and after,
Mm-hmm.
State of the Union.
State of
the
the
State of the
Union, the State
Union,
of the Union. Yeah, that
and he
was so
was
evident.
fired for like, um, for that almost 2
They're
hours.
flown off.
Okay.
And
Well, all of you should watch CBS on Thursday night
Okay.
when we cover the CNN broadcast debate of the two candidates, and we will see. And thank you all for sharing some of your time tonight with us and being so lively and obviously motivated this election.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Nice to
Yes.
meet all of you too.
And nice
Yes,
meeting all of you.
bye.